everyone, and we are back with Diffusion podcast. Today we have Poli, founder of Mippo, and also a contributor for TFTC. Caroline, it is a pleasure to have you with us, and it's going to be amazing talking about creators economy. So in that sense, why don't you first provide a short background on your history so far?
Hello, Ricardo. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am Caroline, and I'm working in finance for a long time. I have been through stock exchanges, banks, brokers, and now I am an entrepreneur trying to redefine finance and to create projects to empower the creative economy and to bridge the idea of content, of storytelling, and banking to make banking more interesting. I'm also helping with TFTC, which is also a very exciting project that can apply those things to their jurisdictions and the projects that they are developing also.
Amazing. Well, it is a pleasure to have you with us on TFTC. And well, I'm a big fan of the creator economy. I believe there is a huge gap still to cover and for us to unleash on digital world. In that sense, I think we can start from the following step. When you think about the creators economy, what is the major bottleneck for the creators economy to flourish nowadays in 2025?
Well, I think for the, creative economy in a broader sense, it is connected to content, to storytelling, to narrative. It is not only the creators that we know, for example, the influencers or people like that. It is not. It is people that, artists, photographers. There's a whole world of people that create that that find difficult to monetize their work. Because if you think, for example, about movies, about TV shows, there are always gatekeepers of that monetization. There are the broadcasters, the distributors of that content. So what we want to do is to use decentralization and Web3 to tokenize those content, those artistic creations, and to offer them to make them interact with their audience without those gatekeepers. Obviously, we're not taking away the broadcasters nor the distributors. What we are doing is that we are creating a new way to monetize content and sharing this revenue amongst all of the players in the chain. And technology allows us to do that now.
Yeah, I see technology coming as a tool more than anything. And we talk about the tools, we are also talking about tools for the commons. And as you know, we are developing digital economics. So thinking about the proper, let's say, lane route that we have to have for this to work in a fair way for creators and not, let's say, getting rid of all gatekeepers, because we know it's kind of impossible. There is always someone that it would be, we are kind of dependent on. In that sense, how can we probably streamline gatekeepers and ensure people are being rewarded using the current infra that we have, especially with blockchain tokenization?
Well, for example, if we have a broadcaster, if you have a normal broadcaster, how do they make money? They make money through advertisement and product placement. In this monetization, it is tied only to their capacity of generating revenue and their deals that they are making. With technology, with visual and sound inputs, we can connect the audience directly to the content, and the content itself is monetizable. So what we do is that once the content itself is monetizable, because it is connected directly to the spectator, we can share this revenue amongst the distributor, the content owner, and the platform that is allowing that to happen. So it's a different dynamic of the monetization of that content, where the content itself, independently of the platform that it's being broadcasted, it is monetizable and it's connected directly to the spectator.
I think the most interesting thing is when you look at big techs, we're talking about the FANGs, especially like if you go with probably Amazon, where I have worked, I still feel like the platform, they are more like, I keep thinking like very, very like in black and white. It's just infra. And then, of course, you create all those interfaces to interact with audiences and also attract traffic. But in a certain sense, I think like the network effect also plays a huge role. And it's difficult to break the network effect. How can you, like, if you're talking about building let's say a new platform that is much more fair to users, to producers, to content producers, how do you drive this traffic that usually isn't a big platform, for example, Meta, to a new one? Because I feel that's been one of the major bottlenecks for protocols arising in blockchain as well, because people, when they wake up, the first thing they do is go to WhatsApp or go to whatever, Instagram, because it's just easy. So how do we probably speed run the change in the culture for people to start adopting better platforms, I would say?
I don't think we're trying to compete with those platforms. I think what we are trying to do is to offer a different way to banking and to financial interaction, because what we are doing here, it's connected to investment and purchases and connection with that content. It is a financial transaction happening there. It is more as a financial solution than as a platform that is competing with those other platforms. Because banking, if you think about banking, bank and finance, they feel cold. They feel very numbers on a screen. They feel a ledger of information, like an Excel sheet. It is not intuitive and it is not narrative based. But what happens is that if you think about it, narrative already moves markets and move money in a very different ways, because people usually interact financially with they connect with. So why this idea is not embedded in our financial platforms in a way that wallets feel more human, and the act of banking, instead of being an avoidance for people, it is inspiring. It inspires participation.
Well, I have another question for you, because I do believe, honestly, I think it's been way too much time looking at blockchain, crypto, from the financial perspective. And nowadays, if anyone comes to me talking about prices and like how they're going to profit from it, I was like, this is not inspiring at all. And I feel like with the technology we have with blockchain, it's such a limited way to see what we have available nowadays. Of course, finance is probably embedded in everything that we do at life, but I think it's more about participation. I share the vision of the stakeholder capitalism from Klaus Schwab. Most people probably not like him, but I think that vision, like, it's really important for us to probably digest and think. Like, even today, as a citizen, of course, you're contributing with taxes, but in a certain way, you are a stakeholder of the treasure of public money. And how we can inspire the kind of culture across all the sector in the industry that people participate and own, and also get rewarded by what they contribute.
Yeah, if you think about that, for example, for the creative economy is a great example, because if I am a huge fan of a TV show or something that is a huge hit, or a singer or whatever, and I can invest in this career or in this production, I become a stakeholder of that thing that I am promoting without any financial returns. So if I become a stakeholder of that production, I'm not only a fan, but I'm also a promoter of that work because I have interested in that. So the idea is to create an ecosystem where it's good for everyone. It's good for the production, that will have more incentive.
Cool. Well, thank you for your insight. And Carl, Well, I spent a lot of time. I have spent a lot of time last year trying to understand X. They're coming with a complete new approach in regards to Twitter. And one thing that I noticed is big techs, they will be the first ones to implement new technology, but it's still they will do that in their own favor. So if you think about why like X was bought, Twitter was bought, it was because of the brand. It was because of the infra, because of superior interface. I don't think so. I think it's more about the network effect. The people that keep opening up every day the app, they will keep doing it for a while. In that sense, they know that who spend money on buying X, they know people are kind of, we can even say, addicted to the platform in a certain sense, and they will implement new technologies, but to retain that network effect, they even scale it. So in that perspective, I wonder, like, what can we expect coming from like big tech companies in terms of innovation? That kind of, like, of course, they are a profit-oriented business, but what can we expect in terms of they becoming more human? Because on X, what I'm noticing, a lot of people are getting rewarded much more than they were in the past by just creating content, copywriting content, which is not usually usual. Yeah, because most of the content is monetized through platform is video-oriented content. So in that sense, what do you expect from platforms like even Netflix? How can we make Netflix become more interactive? That people consume what they watch, but they also put inputs in the movies that they watch, and they get rewarded with it.
Well, I think this is a tricky question because if you think about those platforms, the business model, it is a centralized business model. What you're trying to do here is to offer a decentralized platform where you can connect the broadcaster, the content, the user, the products. So it is different. It is a different kind of ecosystem. It is not centralized like those big platforms. And I think this shift will come when people understand that they can have financial gains for what they are consuming, what they are interacting with, that they are actually the power move that helps those platforms to work. Because I don't think those big techs will make this shift like this because it's not their business model. It is with Web3 and decentralization, the idea is different, is to put all different players in one single platform. So I think essentially the business model there is different.
Okay, cool. So, Carol, so after everything that we went through, I think one of the most important things what we're going through is the fact that we're also changing as collective of people, and that comes the culture with new generations. Like their interests changes, the demands changes as well. So, if you want to go over how the culture can impact the adoption and even the transition from centralized models to decentralized models, I think it would be interesting.
Well, I think once people understand that decentralization is just a way of creating new ecosystems where everyone is collaborating and it is not centralized like the old business models, it will more they will feel more willing to participate. But also, I think that it's very important for the decentralized platforms to be very intuitive to help this cultural shift. What we are trying to do is to create this connection and this bridge through visual and sound inputs to make it as more intuitive as possible. And I think also decentralization can help to take away complexity of the financial or the platforms that we have nowadays. And I think the simpler the solution, it is easier for the user to adopt. So I guess in this sense, decentralization, the platforms that we will have, will foster this adoption in a very faster way.
Yeah, you just made me think about what we were building. You know yourself, you've been to Floripa 2 weeks ago, and I stayed there for one more week, and I noticed, well, after the conference that we had about all the network state pieces, we went through a period of a pop-up village that we got together with the builders, developers, creators, designers, product managers to create a solution that would onboard the community from IP City into an actual platform. So IP City have launched, it's not open for the public yet, but they have an app which is supposed to be their own, let's say, social media integrated with financial and banking. And in a certain way, what we are doing is like platformizing, like making a community in a platform. In that sense, we are moving from community to network society. So I think one of the strongest points when it comes to technology is that once you gather people that are like sharing values and common goals, it's much easier for you to bring them into the technology rather than pushing a technology in a community that doesn't share anything common. That's something that I see a lot. There's a product built, and then they, like the protocols, they try to push their product in the community. That's basically sharing nothing but like financial gain, like expectations. So probably trying to hear from you. So when you think about people working together, what is the future of collaboration looks like?
No, absolutely. I think this is a great point, and it's actually the basis of all of this idea. Yeah, I think this is a great point that you put there, because I think exactly what we're saying. If you have So this is a great point that you just said, because this is also the shift from centralized business model to collaboration business models that decentralized favors. If you think about if you have only one player centralizing the relationship with the users or the monetization, it is more difficult for them to bring the users. But if you are collaborating amongst different players, and everyone is fostering the adoption of that solution, because it's not a centralized solution, but it's a collaborative solution, the adoption and the spread of this idea is much easier, in my opinion. So
you're right.
So the users, they will come from multiple endpoints, not only one in a centralized model. So these communities, these society communities, everyone has interest of bringing more people there, not just only one player. So I think this dramatically shifts the way new people engage and the way it is spread amongst communities and users and people and stakeholders.
I think that's where our thesis as a network, they become much more clear, because of course we went through of how the industry looks like today, and we cannot avoid it and pretend that it's like, oh, everything is sunshine and flowers. There is a lot of centralization, and let's be honest, we are still not even yet to a point that the big techs, they are the biggest like centralizers of all. Like, first of all, we're talking about government. So now there is a clash between like traditional governments and big tech, especially countries like Brazil. We see a power struggle between public institutions and big techs coming to Brazil. I mean, it's quite clear that it's like, again, two massive structures fighting for who's going to be the new government of the world. Like, would be it like let's say opaque structures that we have no clarity, or would it be like technological ones that at least we can see KPIs and analytics, even though it might be in a certain way altered? We don't have full clarity on how the algorithm works. But still, if you think about what we actually want to build, we will have to probably like move away from all of that and start something locally with a small tribe and a community that builds from bottom up. In that sense, what's something interesting, I don't know if you know, but IP City as well, after they created this app that is supposed to be a platform for the community, in that sense, they're moving from community to a network society with integrated payments. They're coming with their own token, their own stable coin, based on the vision of allocracy. So people right there, they will start, of course, providing services to each other, and now still be able to manage their own treasury. From that own society, they're coming with tokens for a new product that they aim to launch for specific interests. So I can foresee, and I'd like to hear from you, because people, they always move towards like shared vision and common goals. And then we can probably imagine that we will have plenty of societies. And how do you see this interplay between like people perhaps they participate in something, and then they are also have participation in other initiative that is cross-related. Do you actually believe it is possible for people to participate in multiple initiatives at the same time?
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that, because it's the human nature of it is normal for people to do multiple things and to have multiple interests. So I think this is very positive. I don't think this is something that it excludes one one reality or another. I think it's complementary. I think all of those platforms together and offering multiple ecosystems will help people to pursue different goals and to do different things, but in a more collaborative way and a more shared vision way. So I think this actually it is very good. I don't see and I see it happening. I don't think the same way that we interact with different things in life, we're going to be able to interact with different societies or different platforms, but in a more transparent way, in a more collaborative way. So I see it as an advantage, actually.
Yeah, I do share the same vision. I think what we're doing, like even today in Tools for the Commons, is like very aligned with that, because well, we have you as a contributor, but we have other contributors as well, and they're all involved with different projects. Now the thing is, we are still finding ways to make this more democratic, in the sense that you join an initiative, you get a certain amount of stake on that, so you also be able to track your participation and ensure you get rewarded in the future for your participation. So in that sense, I think tokens are really important on that. So what is your vision about tokens and how they should operate across the legal environments as well? I know you have experience on that, so it would probably be nice to go over.
Yeah, well, I think tokens they already found they already are they hold the idea of value, and that they can be discussed. For example, if you have to discuss them legally, they can be discussed. But I think the tokens, they help us to create this chain of value when people want to collaborate. For example, with Mippo, what we do also for the creative economy, it is a B2B platform where they can get together and they can collaborate and they can create their artistic rights and store this artistic right that will be monetized in a token that later on will redistribute the revenues among the chain of the people that collaborated together to create the content. So I think tokens, they empower the users of those ecosystems to collaborate and create things together. This is just an example of creative economy, but we can use it to any kind of output that is coming from that, or any kind of creation, being a creation of a product, of a service, or whatever. You can put all of the different users together, and they can after collaborate and be rewarded with the revenues of that creation in a more fair and transparent way.
I see tokens like in different ways. Like it can be an expression from their own community, like a meme. Like it's actually funny because a lot of like tokens, they are actually memes that have existed for a while. So when you talk about even the classical, the most famous one, like Doge, Pepe, those were memes in the internet for about, I don't know, at least 10 years. And then the projects were like, okay, so this meme exists. It represents a culture. It represents a community, a global community, by the way. So let's tokenize it. And then you created like a token for that specific purpose. But it's, of course, they're still trying to find ways to bring utility to the token. So in that sense, what makes me think is how can we also provide the legal framework, thinking about more about like tools for the common perspective while we're developing digital economic zones, because I feel like it's easy. It's not that easy. Let's also give them credit. It's not that easy to tokenize community. If you manage to launch something like Doge and Pepe and draw that amount of value the change. That's an accomplishment, but it's still, we still have to be more transparent and participative in the way that those funds are managed by their own community. I feel like, for example, Pepe doesn't have a treasury that's managed by people. So of course, there's a lot of money there, a lot of people that bought tokens, but it's easy from one day to the other to someone just sack it all and leave the community hanging. So how can we also make sure those tokens are being created around communities? They are held responsible, and in a certain way also like more collaborative, using digital infra and digital jurisdiction for that purpose.
Well, this is a very good question, but I think in the business model of tools, what I see is that what we are creating as tokens are digital representations of the rights that they have in that jurisdiction. So it is a bit of a different model because it is not something that community is creating, that it's not a representation of a legal right in that jurisdiction. So in this sense, the model of tools for the commons is stronger because it's also delivering the regulatory framework underneath that. So what the tokens are doing, they are just what we are doing with tokenization there. We are just helping for that environment to be more transparent, more easy to do contracts and collaborations. But this solution, for example, in the first zone that we are discussing, tools for the commons, it is backed by a strong regulatory framework. So in this sense, it is a more secured solution. So people cannot do whatever they please or not respect the jurisdiction there.
Exactly. And I'll bring Mippo City as I always like to try and bring like a real world case that the things are happening now. People understand this is not just concept. So Mippo City has been very oriented to community, but differently. Okay, it's not as global as like big tokens out there, but it's a community that started digitally. They got together. They're from different parts of Brazil. They went to Floripa, which is a tech hub. They launched a conference to actually activate the network state movement locally. But then they gathered together to create their own token. And this token will be used internally first for them to exchange services, because you have within there, you have developers, you have creators, you have people, they're contributing business developers. In that sense, you have to create like, of course, an exchange mechanism internally, and can probably scale afterwards. But of course, I think most importantly is once you have a treasury, you ensure, of course, you have mechanisms like multi-signature to ensure everyone participating, but also having the legal framework to ensure that's not something only happening on chain. Because what I notice is like protocols, networks, and on-chain solutions, they have very, very little, let's say, accountability. Like I can, like, the amount of projects that they raise money, they are able to raise the token value like to the sky, and they also like from both venture capital and from their own community, because there's a lot of crowdsourcing as well. So you're bringing money from the community, and then afterwards they just take everything away, and that's it. And the protocol dies, the project dies, but they never actually get held accountable from that sense. So I think the most important is like what we are building around digital economic zone, digital jurisdiction, has also will be also providing the legal, the safety net for those probably we can even call it startup society to operate. So if you want to go over a little bit more on the legal aspect and how this can provide, let's say, bring a whole different level of trust to the blockchain industry, it would be amazing.
Well, yes. I mean, this is a very good point, and it's a shame that it happens more often than it should, because the technology is there to help people, to facilitate people's lives, not to be a vehicle for those kinds of scams or things that happen very often. I think, for example, in Tools for the Commons, everything that we are doing alongside with the government and using a regulatory framework that is strong enough for people to feel safe that they are using there. All of the financial solutions or the regulatory frameworks, everything that is already, it has very strong legal background. So we are not, in a sense that, to reply to your question, we are not creating anything that it is unsafe for the user. Everything there, it is safe and is backed by a regulatory framework. Obviously, we want to facilitate the exchange and the collaboration between people. So this is a concern of ours, but always leveraging first security and legal security of people. So, for example, in the we're creating a zone in Zanzibar, and also we are planning to do one in Floripa. And those zones, they will reflect the rights that people have in those jurisdictions. So imagine that you have all the regulatory framework of creating a company in Florianopolis, and this will only be facilitated by the tools for the common solutions for that jurisdiction. So you have to imagine that everything that we are doing is just a digital twin of what happens in the jurisdiction itself, but in a very transparent way, in a very easy way. This interaction will happen in this platform in a very easy way, in a very interactive way. You have facilitation to create a company, to do the accountancy, to collaborate with other peers. You have those multi-sign wallets helping you to manage finances. So it is just, we are just helping people and giving them tools to operate better, but we are not doing anything that is not strictly legal and backed by that jurisdiction that where the solution is being explored.
Yeah, well, I'll try to talk about this without giving any name, but I know Cayman Island is a jurisdiction that has been used, but let's say big players in the industry, let's not give them names, but it's not the most transparent and now so easy to, let's say, to reach out to if you have any issue, which also brings a problem to the, let's say, the blockchain, crypto network, or on-chain networks ecosystem, because I feel like people are getting tired of being, even the user, the people that are actually buying the thesis, they're like, man, I'm tired of being like scammed. So how do we provide, let's say, how can we bring fresh air this to ensure that we keep innovating? Because from my understanding is on-chain initiatives, even blockchain specifically, they are regulatory sandboxes. Actually, a lot of things that have been tried on Ethereum, especially, they served as a benchmark for public institutions to do their own thing. So it has been successful in the sense of, like, for us trying different policies, even economic policies, or let's say administrative policies, and like regulatory flexible environment that is like strictly technological when it comes to blockchain. But in a certain sense, when we look at Ethereum, what does Ethereum actually have function? You know, they, as let's think about Ethereum like a real institution that has, you know, like accountability, have like actually to provide reports to the stakeholders. Nowadays, the stakeholders, there are people that hold the Ethereum token, but honestly, this can be a very, let's say, problematic discussion. But people look at Ethereum, and you have Ethereum Foundation. They're like, okay, who is in charge? Who is going to be, like, let's say, held accountable if I don't get my money in return? Because a lot of people there are still in losses, and it doesn't matter what you say. If anything goes wrong in a protocol within Ethereum, that protocol is part of the Ethereum ecosystem. So I feel like, once again, those, like, the blockchains, they need to start having, like, if not the whole blockchain ecosystem itself, but at least the protocols within it, they have to be in a, like, a legal, like, compliant jurisdiction, like transparent, of course, aligned. I'll not try to make this like as boring, but if you're thinking about innovation, we should not go the usual route. First, they want to make it legal, but also make it participative. So how can we create a jurisdiction that it aligns with Web3 ethos? That's my question.
No, this is a sharp observation, because people think decentralization is decentralized, but it's not, right? There is people that are there issuing the first governance layer, and ultimately it's very difficult to create something that is completely decentralized in a way that decision making is not made by those first ones that did the first layer of governance. So in this sense, if you think about initiatives, and why do I like Tools for the Commons initiative so much, is that, think about it, when you have a democracy, you have people choosing those ones that will make decisions for them. But what if instead of that, you have those same tools of decision making available through technology and decentralization to everyone to decide? So you create a jurisdiction or a place where people are making decisions by themselves, empowered by technology. And there is the responsibility of those first the first governance layer, that is jurisdictional, that is the government that was issuing that, the same way that we are doing with tools. And then you have more transparency about the public expenditure, the money of the taxes that is being, how it is being reverted in the good of the population. So I see those projects in the technology helping jurisdictions and governments to be more transparent and to help people to take decisions for themselves in a more collaborative way. I think we are a long run away from that, but I think this is where we are going. I don't think in the future will be much spaces for those kinds of platforms that are not secure for the user or for the populations. I think the idea is that we replace those legal systems that we have now and this jurisdiction way that we have through collaborative participation of the commons. So I think in the long run, that will be the scenario.
Amazing. You got a solid understanding what is going on in a very mature way, which I think is a shame for most people. They lack that because they think if you're bringing governments into blockchain, you'll be destroying everything, which is actually quite the opposite. We need governance right now. Some protocols are already working around that. I think Optimism has been working around thesis of like putting, let's say, a way if you can like participate and have the power of voting based on your contributions to the ecosystem. So basically, if I remember, Optimism was kind of like the framework was kind of like this: the more initiatives around public goods that you have contributed to grow, the more voting power you have. So it's nice to have actual real cases that actually, like, again, from my understanding, there's a lot of things that are going to be tried. They won't be perfect, but they will serve as a benchmark for who has more, let's say, resources and even like access to the network effect to try their own stuff and actually make it work. But anyway, when it comes to the whole crypto, I would say like now I think even I rather call it blockchain ecosystem. Needs is governance. You have a lot of protocols. You have, say, if you focus only in the four majors network, it's like, okay, Bitcoin is more like an open source network. You have Ethereum, Solana, and ICP from Divinity. They still are working. I think there's a far road to become governable. In that sense, I think solutions like ours and Tools for Commons are pushing ahead the idea that we should bring governance, of course, a new style of governance to the chains, and also, as you mentioned, to make it more participative. That's honestly, if the government tomorrow, even the Brazilian government comes to me, look, you're going to be able to vote in your candidate on the net. That's already a huge step for me. So I feel like what we do here on our side will also help the bigger governments to develop themselves and become better. So probably just to close it up, Caroline, we're heading to the end of the podcast. what kind of message you want to leave for the future? What do you expect from all these technologies, and like how do you envision tools for the commons impacting the society and the economy in the short term and the longer term as well?
Well, I think, well, thank you for having me here in the podcast. I really enjoy it. So I think, as I said, technology has to make things easier for people and empower them. So in this way, for example, if you think about tools for the commons, what we are doing is moving in that direction. Why would I choose someone to represent me if technology one day will allow me to have my voice taken into account to my day-to-day life challenges and decision making that I have to do as a community? So I think Tools for the Commons is bringing that, we're slowly bringing and building these solutions for people, to empower people, to give them voices, and to make the collaborative democratic environment that we live in more transparent, which is super important. So I think this is the future of that we are looking at, and with a strong governance, with safe solutions for people, using technology to deliver safe and collaborative and transparent solutions. I think this is the main goal that we are trying to build with Tools for the Commons. And I think this is it. And also with finance, like Mippo, like everything, we are trying to make things for people easier, collaborative, and empowered. And I think we are in a good path to deliver that, and I'm very excited to see what lies ahead.
Amazing. Well, Caroline, first of all, we appreciate you being here on the podcast, but most importantly, to be a contributor to Tools for the Commons. You share our vision of a participative and collaborative future. And well, I'll leave here one more invite for people to follow Caroline on their social medias. Caroline, I don't know, like you have your LinkedIn profile as well, but if you want to like pitch in other social medias, feel free to.
Thank you, Ricardo. It was a huge pleasure to be here. And if you guys want to follow me, I am in LinkedIn as Caroline Poli, and also follow Mippo to see when we are launching this new solution. And also follow Tools for the Commons, because we are doing exciting things in all of those initiatives.